Hello, this is Katie and this is another one of my jewellery making tutorials using wire. So today we're going to be making this really cute, lovely, really easy to wear bracelet, and it's a lot simpler than you think. It looks like it's got lots of detail in these bits, but it is super simple with a little bit of practice. I'm not saying if you've never done it before you can do it first time. Always remember, when you're learning things, you're there to practice to start with, and you're not kind of expected to get it perfect straight off. So this is called macrame. So this macrame is generally done with cords and threads, but today we're going to be doing it with wire. So macrame works on using kind of a base thread, which is called a lazy strand. We'll be using a lazy wire today, and then a working strand, or multiple working strands in some cases, and we'll be using a working wire today. So there is also the little clasp part. I did that on a video a couple of days ago, so it's just a separate video, just really quick, just on that clasp. So don't forget to check out that at the end. I will show you just briefly how to change the direction of the eye. So that's the hook and eye clasp tutorial, which is there, which I've already got pre-made. So I'm just going to pop that to one side. So what we're going to need is we're going to need some wire. So I would recommend for your lazy, so that's the one that goes internally, it's got holds your beads and gets the strength of this. I would recommend using either a 0.9 or a 1mm. So a 0.9mm is a 19 gauge in US terms, and a 1mm is 18 gauge in US terms. Both are perfectly fine for making this bracelet. You could probably go down to a 0.8mm, that would be your 20 gauge. But I would say stick with the firmer ones if you can, just because it gives you that little bit extra strength. So for the actual macrame, I've chosen to use a 0.6mm. I think it gives you this nice kind of slightly chunky look, but without it being too sort of chunky, if you know what I mean. It gives it, you can still see all that detail in it. So that is your 0.6mm wire, which is your 22 gauge in US terms. I will pop on the screen the exact measurements that you need of everything, but I will briefly say as we go along too. We're going to be needing some tools. So we're going to be needing some flush cutters, some chain nose pliers and some round nose pliers, and we'll also need some beads. So I have chosen to use 6mm size beads, so that's 6mm diameter, and they are center drilled. So you can actually use lots of different size beads and change wire gauges and things as you go. But this is a nice basic one just to get you going with wire macrame, and then you can play around with techniques and different beads and thicknesses, sides of beads as such. You can even play around with the shape of the bead as well. So I'm going to move all these bits out of the way and show you how we get started. So the other little thing, kind of big thing that I forgot to mention there, was the board. The macrame board that you work upon, it makes life easier. There are ways and means of doing it. You can kind of work out other ways using clips and making notches in other sorts of boards. But if you can get yourself a proper macrame board, which are quite readily available at craft stores, what you will find is it will make life so much easier. And what a macrame board has is this lovely soft foam-like, it's quite a firm foam, but it gives you all these gaps to work in, and you'll find that you can work in different parts. You can make lots and lots of multiples, make sure they're all the same length, but it will make life easier. So this board is the larger macrame board, so it's about 30 centimeters this way, and then the length is about 40 centimeters. So my piece of wire, because I need it to go over at both ends of this, my piece of wire is longer than I actually need, but don't worry about that, because the offcuts that come off here, you can use to make your clasp at the end, so don't worry about wasting any wire. So what I've done is I've taken my piece of wire, which is, because this is 30 centimeters this way, I've gone with about 40 centimeters, and all I've done is I've taken it through, and then I brought it up through the next one and down through that one, just to make sure that especially that top end is really nice and super secure. I've threaded my beads on, which for my size I've got 9. I will talk about sizing as we move on. And then at the bottom, I might have to turn this around, it's just hooked over and you can see on this side you get a grid, and it's just a loose piece of wire there, but it's nice and firm and secure on our board. So, and make sure your beads will move freely on that piece of wire as well. So let's just have that little talk about sizing now. So as we make this, we're going to be making little groups of 3 square knots, is what they're called, 3, and then add a bead. Now each of these groups of 3 and add a bead, they measure 1.5 centimeters. Okay, so the full length of the bracelet I've made to fit my wrist, if I straighten this out, this is nice because it gives it that little bit of rigidity. So the full length of the bracelet without the clasp, like so, is 6 inches, which is 15 centimeters, and that's 9 beads. So you need to work out, for every bead you add, you're going to be adding 1 bead and 1 section, so you're going to add 1.5 centimeters. So this length here is 15 centimeters, so if I added another bead, it would be 16.5 centimeters, and so on and so forth. With the clasp, I've added another inch on it, which makes it another 1.5 centimeters sort of thing. So makes it 17.5 centimeters, so it's a little bit more than makes it 2.5 centimeters on there. So that's just to give you an idea of sizing and how it will work for you. If you've got a wrist like mine, which is about 6 inches, this will fit you fine. So that's 6 inches measured tight to your wrist. So this gives me a little bit of movement with it as well. So we're going to get started. We've added our beads, we've got our wire on our macrame board. So the next thing we need is some 0.6 millimeter wire, which is your 22 gauge. Now it is a long piece of wire you're going to need. The thing with macrame is you cannot add. You can't really add in once you've started a design. So you need to make sure you have got all the wire that you need. And for this, just to make sure I've got a little bit extra, I've got 140 centimeters. Now, off the top of my head, I haven't worked that out in inches, but I will bob it in some in a title on the screen for you. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to work with it in half. So don't panic that it's this huge piece of wire. We're going to work with it in half. So we want to find that halfway point and pop it under and just pull one side through. So we're going underneath our lazy wire. This is our working wire we just added, and we want to push that right to the top. I'm just going to bring that forward and just zoom in a little bit. Now just make sure to either side of you, you've got plenty of space. Now wire does like to grab things, so just make sure, it'll probably grab something of mine, even though I have moved things, but just make sure you've got plenty of space around you, sort of this way and this way, just so that you can work nice and freely. Now I want you to make sure this wire is nice and tight there in the middle, so it's not going to slip, so that we know we've got an equal working length at each side. Now we're going to start creating straight away our first square knots. Make sure your beads are down at the bottom, down this way and out of the way. So we've got this wire and my left hand wire, totally ignore that for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a D. So this wire is coming from underneath. I've made this D shape, so if you look at this, it's like a capital D or a capital P, whichever way you want to look here. And this wire is coming over the top of my lazy strand. So I'm just going to hold that there a second, just so we can look at this cross here. So this one, the 0.9 millimeter wire is at the bottom. I've brought this one around and just laid it across. Don't worry what that end of it's doing. Doesn't matter about what that end's doing at all. And I've just made a cross, and this one is on top of the lazy one. So the working has gone over the top. I'm just going to hold that there a second while I just grab the end of the opposite one. So this one here, this is the end of it. Now this tail, the very tail of it, is going to go underneath the cross, but it's going underneath both wires. So you see how that cross is there? It's going underneath both wires. So it's gone underneath the working and then the lazy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up through the middle of that D. And I've kind of just tied a knot very loosely around this lazy wire. Now just gently, not pulling it tight at this stage, I've just made it smaller, that's all. Now when I get to this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my thumbs. So I've got the wire in my hands and I'm going to use my thumbs just to really gently but firmly just pull this. Now it's not going to go as tight as you're not going to see a gap through the middle. That is as tight as it's going to go. I'm going to bring that up. You see that there? That's as tight as it's going to go. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so we've done half a square knot now. Now we need to do the exact same at the other side. So just ignore this one. We're working on the left side this time. So we're going to make this kind of backwards D. Yeah. So we've got this backwards D here. I've laid it across the lazy wire and making sure this wire comes over the top of the wire we just popped across. I'm going to find the end of it. Oops, it doesn't want to come the right way. Find the end, and then this end is going to come underneath that cross and up through that D. Now don't panic, I'm going to do it again. So we're just going to bring this a bit smaller. Don't ever start pulling it when it's really big. We're just going to bring it smaller because the more we touch this wire, the more work hardening we're going to do in it. And it's going to get harder as we go on anyway. So we don't want to excessively work harden the wire. That's when we put too much, the heat from our hands is on the wire and we're touching it and we're working it. And that's when the wire becomes hard and brittle and could snap. So we want to be working the wire as little as possible. So now I've pulled this in, so I've got my little loop. Now I'm going to put my hands in. So I put my hands underneath here, put my thumbs here, and just bring that tension in until it won't go anymore. Pull it out a little bit. And that is our first full square knot. Now it doesn't look that much at the moment, does it? We're going to work on that. So we want 3 here. So now we've got 1. We need to do the same again. So we start with this first half, we make that D shape, making sure this wire is coming over the top of the one we just took across. So over the top of the one we just took across, we find the end, and then that end goes under the cross and up through that loop we just made, through that D shape. And again, just bring it smaller. Then when you get to this point, bring it in nice and tight. So as tight as it'll go, but without, you're always going to have little gaps in there, and that's what we want. That creates the design. So don't be pulling it so hard that it's hurting. Just as tight as the tension will go. Once it stops, that's it, it's stopped. We're going to make that loop on this side again, making sure this wire is coming over the top of the wire we just took to one side. Then find the end, and then underneath that cross again. Making sure, see how this is trying to form a little loop there, making sure we pull that out, bring this in till it's nice and small, then pop our fingers in and pull this tighter. So now we've got 2 square knots. So let's just have a look at that. You see it's starting to form. Now the reason I can tell we've got 2, you know, like if the door was to, bell was to ring on the door or anything, you've got to walk away. I know I've got 2 bumps on this side. Okay, so remember the side that you started at, as long as you've got 2 full bumps, or 1 bump, or 2 bumps, 3, whatever, you know that this is the side that you're going to pick up next. Okay, so always look at the side you started at. If you haven't got the bump on the side you started at, that means you're on this side, so you'll be doing that loop. So again, we're going to make that D shape, make sure this wire is on top of the wire we just took across, and then we're going to grab the end and under the cross and up through the loop. Bring it in smaller, and then we're going to bring it in tight. Don't worry, see how that slid down a little bit? We can just push it back up. It's no problem at all. Opposite side, over the top of the lazy strand. Bring this one over the top of the working strand, and then under that cross. It does feel very complicated at first, but once you've got it, and you know, it's one of those things that you're like, oh gosh, yes, now I get it. So we've got our 3 square knots, they're called. So 3 square knots, and then all we do is we push a bead up, and then we're going to do 3 square knots again. We're just going to work over around the bead. So again, we're making that D shape, bringing it over the top of the wire we just took across. So over the top here, and then under the cross, up through the loop, bring it nice and small. Just pretend that bead's not there, just pull it in exactly as you did before, nice and tight. And we've just encapsulated that bead. It will bounce out about. Did you see how it came tight? It just bounced out a little bit. Just make sure that both sides are even, and it's absolutely fine. Making that reverse D shape, bringing this wire over the top of the one we just took across, underneath that across, up through the loop we just made. Bring this nice and small, then go in with some tension, nice and tight. Again, the opposite side, make that D shape, find the end, under the cross, bring it in till it's small, then use that tension to bring this nice and tight. Make that reverse D shape, under the cross, always making sure, if you're finding it's unraveling as you make the knot, it's probably because you didn't bring this over the top of the wire that you took across. So making sure every time you come over this wire, but then under the cross. Let me explain that again. So I know I'm at this side because I've got my bump at this side. It's actually, some people call it under the bridge. So if you can imagine all these little bridges, this is the wire that's coming under the bridge. So this is the one that we work on first. So just push that up a little bit. Again, make that D shape. Make sure this top wire is coming over the top of the wire we just took across. So this is the one we just took across, and this wire is coming over the top of it, and then you can find the end of that wire to come under that cross and through, and pull nice and tight. And then the opposite side, this wire is coming over the one we took across, and then under the cross that we made in the center, and pull it small, and then nice and tight. And then if we look at this, we can see where we are, because we've got 1, 2, 3. I tend to count them by clicking them. 3. So when we've got 3, that means it's time to push a bead up. And then you're just going to continue doing this all the way until you get to the bottom, and you're going to finish on 3 after the last bead as well. So I'm going to keep on working, and I'll join you right at the end. So I've just popped my last 3 in. I've got all my beads added. This is finished just exactly as you would any of the square knots. So don't forget, all the time your square knot is 2 sides of a knot. So the right side then the left side, or whichever way you prefer to do it. You can do left then right. So make sure that you've got full square knots and you finish on a full square knot. So the last one will have that bump on this side. So now what you can do is just carefully take it off the board. So just by unraveling the wire. So at the bottom, I'm just going to pull that out. So I've got that one free. At the top, I'm just going to unravel this. So there we go. So I've got my piece of macrame on my wire. Now what you might want to do is just move it down a little bit and make sure you don't pull it too hard that it flies off the end, because that would not be good. So you've got a nice amount on each side, and it'll leave you a nice amount to make your clasp with the end of this wire as well. So let's start off by ignoring the wire the end that's got lots of wire. So I'm just going to put them together for a second. Let's just work on this little bit here. So what I want to do is I want to create a wrap loop. So I'm going to go back over, grab my tools, just have those handy. And what I want to do is look at the end. So with my macrame facing towards me, don't worry if it twists around a bit, we can twist it back. I'm going to pop my pliers in and create a wrap loop. Now if you have any trouble with making wrap loops, I do have a video just solely dedicated to wrap loops, and it will make you very confident and be prepared to make really beautiful wrap loops every time with a bit of practice. So I've just pushed that wire away. This is a little part where my wraps are going to be. I'm going to pop my pliers in just on that mark that I made earlier. I'm going to wrap this wire all the way around. I'm going to reposition my pliers so they're at the opposite side, and then take that wire over or under, whichever's your preference. So we've got that nice circle, and then I'm going to move my round nose pliers out of the way and grab my chain nose pliers and hold and lock that circle in nice and firmly straight across it, and then I can wrap really, really firmly and gently. I've got a really good grasp of it now, and I know that that circle is not going to misform or anything, and I can wrap around 3 times so that I've got 3 beautiful wraps, and then I can snip off. Just make sure you don't snip any of your 0.6 wire. I'm going to take that around a little bit further just so that I know I'm out of the way of it. And snip off, flush cut, so using the flush side of your pliers closest to your work for a nice finish. And then I'm just going to find the end of that wire and just make sure it's squished in really nicely. So that's one end completely finished, just needs the clasp added onto that end. Now we take a look at the end that looks a little bit more complicated, but don't worry, it is not. Don't throw away this piece of wire, you can use that. So we've got our working wires out to each side and our lazy wire down the middle there. So what I want to do is take either one, it doesn't matter which, bring it over the top and just wrap around really nice and neatly twice. So wrapping the working strand around the lazy strand or wire and snip off. So we don't want many wraps, just a little bit. We're just securing it. We know if we finish a wire off on 2 good strong wraps, it will create a really nice finish. And again with the opposite side, I'm just going to bring it across and wrap around, not over the wraps that I just made, alongside it. So 2 wraps there. It will make this side very slightly different, but nobody's going to notice it in the grand scheme of things. But we need to make sure that that is finished off really nicely. And then again, making sure our macrame is facing upwards up to the sky. I'm going to pop my pliers in, push this wire away, and we're going to start creating that wrap loop on this side. So we're going to grab our round nose pliers, find that mark that we originally made, come all the way around, reposition our pliers, taking my wire across so I've got that nice loop to start with, securing that loop by going straight across with my chain nose pliers, and then I'm just going to wrap this nice and slowly, not too fast, because that is when things start getting messy. So we've got 3 beautiful wraps around there, and then I can finish off by snipping off flush side closest to my work and giving that a nip in. Now that is the actual bracelet part made. You can see it's got some rigidity to it, so we can shape it around so it'll start to form the bracelet shape. Now we need to add the clasp. So what you'll find, if you make the clasp that's the video is available, you will find the eye and the hook. So we're going to add the hook first. So just open up that little part of the hook, pop it onto your design, make sure it's facing the way that you want it to, and then close up that little loop like so. Now we want to add our eye. Now if we add our eye, it's kind of not going to work out properly. If I just add it as it is, so just add it as it is, close it. So if I put the eye to this, can you see the hook and the eye are sort of the same direction. The eye actually needs to be the other way around, so otherwise it kind of twists when we fasten it. So all you need to do, and I can do it while it's still added to the bracelet, hold both loops. So put your pliers across both loops and make it as you normally would. Put your pliers across both loops. So I'm just going to grab an extra pair of chain nose pliers, and then all I'm going to do is do a twist. Okay, so I've twisted them 90 degrees, and I'm just going to take a look, make sure everything's still fastened nicely. Make sure there's nothing opened up. Really happy with that. And now when I fasten it, the eye will be the right way around and it won't twist. Now you've done the hook facing inwards, you can do it facing outwards as well. So if I just grab this one, that one's facing outwards. So there is your beautiful macrame bracelets. You can change this up, you can do different amounts of your square knots, you can add more beads, you can add less beads, you could do square knot all the way along, put one bead in the middle. It's entirely up to you, but it's a really versatile design, and adding that little clasp makes it extra sweet because I think it blends in really nicely. So don't forget, adding one extra bead will add 1.5 centimeters if you're using this size bead and this wire gauge. If you're using different ones, just kind of work it out as you go along. But hopefully you will make some really, really beautiful bracelets. Please don't forget to subscribe. I really enjoy seeing people subscribe to my channel, and I love seeing your comments too. So please make comments. Tell me what you want. So if you tell me what you want, I will try and make it happen for you. I will see you again really soon. Take care. See you later. Bye.